Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parsha Shir on Sefer or Gedalyahu. On this week's Parsha, Sefer or Gedalyahu chooses not only in some of his ma'amarim to address himself to various aspects, psukim and mitzvahs in the Parsha, but in his opening piece actually addresses himself to something much broader, which is the sheer number of mitzvahs contained in this week's Parsha. 74 mitzvahs. This is the most mitzvahs contained in any parsha of the Torah. And so he opens up by just plainly stating, Parsha zo yesh harbe mitzvahs. There are so many mitzvahs in this parsha, which is why the Medrash comments on that fact, speaking about the nature of mitzvahs in general, but mentioning it on our parsha because it contains so many of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. He says, Lachein ma'arich kan ha-medrash b'yesod u'b'mahus shel ha-mitzvahs b'klal u'prat. Therefore, the Medrash here elaborates upon the foundations and the nature of mitzvos in general and in specific. The Medrash, Dvarim Rabbah, says, quotes the pasuk in Mishlei, Ki levias chen hem l'rashecha, they are an adornment of chen, of beauty, of splendor, of charm for your head. And on that pasuk comments the Medrash, Amar Rav Pinchas bar Chama. Rav Pinchas bar Chama says, L'chol makom shetelech hamitzos melavos oscha. He says the pasuk in Mishlei, when speaking about Torah and mitzvahs, says that they are a levias chen. They are an accompaniment of charm for your head. What he's really saying in the pasuk in Mishlei is that the mitzvahs accompany you. They are a levaya. They are an escort for you, no matter where you go in life. And for example, just take a look at our parsha. Every event of life has a mitzvah associated with it. Kiv tivne bais chadash, when you build a new home. Vasita ma'akeh l'gagacha, we have a mitzvah to put up a ma'akeh, a parapet around the roof. Imasita l'chadelas, if you make a door for that house. Ha-mitzvos melavos oscha, then mitzvahs also accompany you. Shenemar uksavtem amazuz beisecha, you should write on the doorpost of your house the mitzvah of mezuzah. And of course, then once you build your house and you get settled in, you have to go inside and you have to get dressed. Im lavashta kelim chadashim, ha-mitzvahs melavos oscha. If you wear new clothes, so the mitzvahs also accompany you on that journey, in that endeavor of life. Shene'amar lo tobah shatnez, we have the mitzvah of shatnez, not wearing wool and linen combined in your clothing, and so on and so forth. The Medrash continues to go on to point out that every circumstance of life has a mitzvah not only associated with it, but a mitzvah that governs our behavior, our performance in those moments. There's a similar medrash also mentioned in Parsha Shlach. Parsha Shlach, we have the parsha of the tzitzis, of the 4 fringes that we put on the corners of our garment, and the tzitzis really are meant to remind us of all mitzvahs. So the medrash gets onto this topic again in Parsha Shlach, or previously in Parsha Shlach, and quotes a different pasuk, not the pasuk from Mishlei, but a pasuk from Tehillim, which we should be familiar with. Coming up to Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre, we recite this pasuk as the opening line of the proceedings of Kol Nidre. Night or zarua lat tzadik. There is a light that is zarua, that is either hidden or implanted somewhere for the tzaddikim, reserved for the righteous. And another pasuk in Yeshayahu, Hashem chafetz l'man tzidko, God desires to justify, to make righteous all of the human beings of the world. So taking those two concepts together, the Medrash says, how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? How does he create a special or that is implanted and embedded for the righteous, for those who follow his commandment? And how does he show his desire to be matzdik human beings, to create righteous human beings, to help us rise to the level of being righteous, to help justify the human being, to raise us up? Medrash says, Zara HaKadosh Baruch es HaTorah v'etz HaMitzvos la'anchilam l'Yisrael l'chayalam haba. HaKadosh Baruch gave us the Torah, and that's how he implanted life within us and resources within us to raise ourselves up and become tzaddikim, become righteous people. So much so, the lo heniach davar ba'olam shelo natan bo mitzvah l'Yisrael, that God didn't leave one thing left over in the world that doesn't have a mitzvah associated with it in order to give us these opportunities and these pathways. Yatsa lachrosh, for example, you go out to plow the field, we have a mitzvah. Lo tachrosh, we have a mitzvah of not how to plow our field, not combining animals, not doing shatnez or kilayim in the fields. Lizroa, lo tizra karmacha kilayim, You want to seed the seeds in the field after it's plowed, so we have laws of kilayim, of not mixing the seeds, both in vineyards and in fields. You go out liktzor, to cut down, to reap, to harvest, after everything grows. Ki tiktzor k'tzircha, we have laws governing how we reap our harvests, and how we give tzedakah, and how we give leket, and shicha, and peah. Then finally you take the wheat in, you start to mill it, you start to grind it, and then you make dough, and you start to knead the dough. Lash, you knead the dough. We have another mitzvah, reshit arisosechem chala, that you have to take off a portion of your dough as chala, as a contribution to the Kohanim. After that, you perhaps want to eat other things with your bread. So shachat, you shecht an animal, and therefore you have other laws, zroa l'chayim, v'keva, different parts of the animal that are allowed to go to the owners, that are allowed to have to go to the kohanim, that can be eaten, that can't be eaten. Ad sheniskasa b'talis, then of course you wrap yourself in a talis, you get dressed, vasulahem tzitzis, and you put on tzitzis, etc., etc. Every occasion of life is mentioned, and every occasion of life has a mitzvah associated with it. Two midrashim, both here in our Parshat and the Parshat Shlach, come to the same essential point. And this is what the Or Gedalyahu dwells upon. What is it about the fact that mitzvahs are associated with every realm of life that is so important? Why is it necessary, and what does it accomplish? What does it do for us? What are we supposed to see in those opportunities? He says, Bebiur hadvarim nir al pi ma sheheviu b'sefer HaKadosh mizar HaKadosh. He says we can answer this question, understand the nature of the ribui mitzvos, the multitude of mitzvos, through something very strong, very powerful from the Zohar HaKadosh. The Zohar HaKadosh says, Shehataryag mitzvos nikraim taryag itin de'oraisa, that the 613 commandments of the Torah are called by the Zohar the 613 itin of the Torah. Itin are eitzos, pieces of advice or opportunities. Eitzos lekarev es ha'adam la'boris barach. There are 613 opportunities to help us come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Rambam casts or describes the mitzvahs in a similar way. Kalashon HaRambam, in the end of Hilchos Tamura, the Rambam says, V'rov dinei HaTorah einam ela eitzos merachot m'gadol ha'etzah L'takin hadeos liyasher kol hamasim. Most of the mitzvahs are really advice or opportunities or ways from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself to be able to fix our understandings and our views of the world, and also our behaviors, our acts. So why do we need these eitzos, these reminders, these pieces of advice? The reason for that is because we live in a very human world, very human-centered world, a very physical world, a world where we're surrounded all day by a lack of godliness. We're surrounded all day by the mundane. God is hidden from our world. To see a miracle in our world, which only happens today, b'derech hateva, through the natural means. We don't have nisim that are shelo b'derech hateva, like kriyas yamsuf, yitzias mitzrayim, arsin. We don't have that. We have nisim b'derech hateva, but in order to see it, you have to be looking through the eyes of faith, through the eyes of the miraculous, because otherwise it just looks like a regular occurrence of the natural world. God is completely hidden from our world, and therefore we can easily become distanced from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can easily become separated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu if we don't actively work to seek out that connection, to seek out that vision, to seek out that relationship, to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu wherever we go. In fact, this is what most concerned Moshe Rabbeinu as we transition, Bnei Yisrael transition from life in the desert, miraculous life in the desert, to life in the land of Israel. He says in many different places in Sefer Dvarim, various warnings to the Jewish people. Your hearts will become so high, you'll become so full of yourselves, and full of yourselves doesn't necessarily mean in the sense of gaiva, in the sense of hubris or excess pride, but it means you'll become so full of human endeavor, so wrapped up in the everyday life that you lead, in your actions, in your activities, that you'll forget that it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu that gives you the strength to do those human actions. You'll start to say, that through my own strength and my own might of my hand, that I have accomplished these things in the world, forgetting HaKadosh Baruch Hu is behind it. He says, Lachein, therefore, B'kol Maaseh Gashmi, in every physical endeavor, in every physical moment, Sha'al Yedei Ha'esek Bo Shayach Sheyavo Lidei Hesach Hadas U'L'Shikcha, whereby in each of those moments we run the risk of becoming separated from Hashem, distracted from Hashem, and come to forget Hashem. Hainu sheyishkach es tafkido ba'olam, v'yishtaka kulam ba'olam ha'maaseh. We'll not only forget God, but we'll forget that we are godly beings. We forget that we have a mission in this world as representatives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as emanations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as people with an neshama. We'll become so enwrapped and so sunk in, ishtaka, in the world of Maaseh, in the world of deed, in the world of physicality, in the Alma de Shikra, in the world of falsehood, that we'll forget Hashem. Mishum, and not only forget Hashem, forget that we have a mission in this world, that we have a godliness to us. We'll forget who we are. Mishum kach hemira kadosh baruch hu mitzvos. Therefore God gave us many, many mitzvos. Lahazkir es ha'adam, Shelo yishkach es tafkido ba'olam, to remind the human being to never forget his mission in the world, her mission in the world, to never forget HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to never forget who we are and why we are here and what our outlook on the world is supposed to be. The pasuk Or Zarul Tzaddik means the same thing. He says, the other medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu zara es or hamitzvah b'hamaseh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu implanted, like a zera, like a seed, within every physical act, a mitzvah act, as a reminder, as an entryway, as a pathway to come back to the realization of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence in us and in the world that is so necessary and so easily forgotten. Through doing these mitzvahs, we will arouse our soul to do better, to try harder in our actions, Mishum ha'or hazaro b'toch ha'mitzvah, because of the light that's implanted it, because of the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu implanted it. And that's what the other pasuk in Mishlei means, Liviyas Chen. Why are they called a Liviyah, an accompaniment? He says, Hamitzvahs milavos oto. We have mitzvahs that accompany us every stage of life, Kalashon HaMedrash, like as the Medrash mentioned before. V'ha'mefarshim pirushu Liviyas milashon chivur. The commentators explain that Levaya is not only an accompaniment, but Levaya means chibur. It means connection, based on the pasuk in Bereshis, Hapam Yilavei Shielai, that this time the man will come with me. V'yesh lefarish hamitzvos mechabras adam l'roshcha. Levias chen hal roshecha doesn't only mean that they are an accompaniment to us, to our head, but that they are a chibur, a connection to our head, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the Rosh HaRoshim, to the head of all heads, to the Makor, to the source of life, to the source of being, to the source of spirit. Or Gedalyahu goes on to explain, Mevar HaMedrash, Shebechol Shinu Itzura Yesh Od Mitzvah. Every time we do another human act that changes something natural and godly in the world because of human effort, we run greater risk of forgetting Hashem, and therefore we increase the amount of mitzvahs that are necessary for it. And he gives many examples, but when you cut off wheat from the ground, so wheat, is a godly thing, grows on its own, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps it to grow. But when it becomes talush, disconnected, because of human action, we need a mitzvah to govern that act. When you make it into the next stage of bread, you need another mitzvah to govern that act. Every human act takes you farther and farther away from the realization of Hashem, and therefore requires more and more mitzvahs as you continue to go forward more and more, all the way towards the mitzvah of Chala, as we mentioned before, the whole progression that the Medrash lays out. One final point to wrap up this topic. He says, in the end of the day, Nimtza shehamitzvos melavas adam b'chol masav. I think it's a beautiful image that mitzvahs accompany us. Of course, in the practical sense, they accompany us because everywhere we go, there's a mitzvah to perform. As soon as you think you're going this way, wow, there's another encounter of a mitzvah. There's another encounter of a mitzvah. At every moment of the day, we have different avenues that can continue to lead us back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because we're involved in everything. And in every aspect that we're involved with, there's another avenue of mitzvah that can bring us to Hashem. But even more than that, I think the imagery is great. What's an entourage, a leviyah, an accompaniment, is something that comes around you. You imagine like this entourage of mitzvahs. As you go about your day performing more and more mitzvahs, not only do you become connected and directed towards Hashem, but you gain this kind of aura, you gain this beautiful accompaniment, this beautiful entourage that ends up escorting you through life, an escort of Kedusha, an escort of the presence of Hashem, which can be so meaningful and so important. Ultimately, mitzvah Hashem, we need to take advantage of the many mitzvahs, the hirba lahem Torah u'mitzvahs that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us in order to keep us on track, in order to serve as the reminders in every physical act of life that there's also a spirit, there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and there's a nefesh, a neshama within each of us that is so special, that should never be forsaken, that should never be neglected, that should only continue to be nurtured, so that we have our chibur, we have our connection to the source of all being, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Good Shabbos.